Right, so welcome to the 2021 Grade 6 Parent Evening. We look forward to obviously welcoming your kids in 2022. Tonight's a really special occasion. We've been through COVID and a little bit of light at the end of the tunnel. And this is our first live event, although we are hybrid with people at home. And I think we've got 60-odd people online, so that's fantastic. Really exciting evening. As I stood in the atrium, I'll be honest, I felt a little disappointed. I was hoping for more, but we respect totally people at home. But that said, it's absolutely beautiful to be standing here after a year and welcoming you. So let's have a great evening together. I hope you get lots of insightful knowledge from the presenters, and I'm sure it's going to be well worth your while for the people here and at home. I'm sure as you drove through tonight, maybe there was a period of reflection. When you just thought, I cannot believe that my kid's going to be going into high school next year, albeit grade 7. And time flies by, and before you know it, they're going to be walking in through those doors. And great to see old pupils that I've taught and got to know, and the cycle goes full cycle. I'd also just like to thank some people for being in attendance, Mr. Van Rensen, our Executive Director, Mr. Cohen, our Director of Education, Matthew Grus, the Chairman of our board. He is a parent tonight, but always great to have you, Matt. I saw Sharon Levy from the board, welcome. Then also just to introduce you to Judy Kohler, our Deputy Principal of the junior high, standing at the back. Judy is the nuts and bolts of our school and does a really efficient job. I've got Amanda Varkel sitting up front here. Amanda is our Senko, our systemic Senko, and she also does an incredible job helping all the kids with specific needs. Mr. Frank is one of our grade heads. He's our COVID officer, does a sterling job there, takes hours of his time, and also part of the science team. And then Sandy Scher, sitting in the front here, the new marketing manager. And thank you for your input in helping organize this event, Sandy. It really is appreciated. And then, of course, we welcome Mark Faulkner, the senior principal of the high school. He's part of our team, but great to have you here, Mark. And then to all the teachers and the student council. We've put in a lot of effort to make this first live meeting as successful as possible and given up your time. You're away from your families tonight. And I really thank you for all that you've done. And then a special mention to Mr. Blumenthal, past pupil as well. He'll be your head of grade 7 next year at the junior high, and he will address you and essentially run most of the evening. But as is tradition at a proudly Jewish day school, proudly Zionist Jewish day school, we started with the Devar Torah, and I'm going to ask Rabbi Cannon to come forward. He'll do the Devar Torah and then just touch on Jewish life and learning briefly. So thank you, Rabbi.
Good evening, everybody. Welcome on a cold winter's night. Nice to see some familiar faces as well. So tonight's actually Lag BaOmer. It's the 33rd day of the counting of the Omer. And something to know is that I think there's oftentimes I see with young Herzlians at this time of year, there's a confusion as to what this time really is. And most of the association is that the Omer period is a mourning period in the Jewish calendar. And then the comments are, amongst the junior and senior high schoolers, if they don't have to shave, because all of a sudden they keep the Omer, all of a sudden this time of year, they don't keep anything, but they keep the Omer. So Mr. Falconer will attest to such stories. So the actual override, though, of this period is in fact misconstrued, because the counting of the Omer is actually something that dates back to the time of Mount Sinai, when the Jews left Egypt, and we counted 49 days until we received the Torah on Har Sinai. That's a long predated, Torah-mandated event that takes place over this time, and it's really about personal growth and about using the opportunity as you go from the reality of freedom to the reality of meaningful living. And that's essentially what the process between Pesach and Shavuot and the counting of the Omer represents. But much later in history, in fact about 1,500 years later in history, Then there happened to be this amazing Jew by the name of Rabbi Akiva, who's one of my Jewish superheroes of all time. And he only started learning at 40 years old. You know, we're in a beautiful learning institution. Just shows it's never too late for anybody. He sat in, you know, the equivalent of Highlands Primary, grade 1, with the other kids throwing sweets at his head, saying, what's a 40-year-old doing inside our classroom learning the Aleph Bet? And from there, after a few weeks, he went to grade 2 and grade 3 and grade 4. And by the time he had been learning for a year, he was already giving his own shiurim. And by the time he was 64, 24 years later, he had amassed 24,000 students. It's not bad. In, you know, the UHS, we have about 1,800 pupils in the whole system. 24,000, Matt, we would be able to find capacity for 24,000 students. So that was the greatness of Rabbi Akiva. He managed to garner and attract and educate 24,000 students. And then during this time period, they all died in a tremendously sad plague, all within a 33-day period. And that plague ended tonight, on the night of Lag BaOmer. And the idea that I just wanted to share on this with everyone coming here tonight, taking out of their time with grade 6 pupils going into grade 7, is an amazing lesson we learn about education from Rabbi Akiva, because you would think to yourself, after you put your whole life's work from 40 years old to 64 years old into Jewish education, and all of your students, bar none, die in a plague, you think to yourself, that's it, I'm throwing in the towel. You think to yourself, it's game over. There's nothing more possible I could live for, because everything I built up now no longer exists. And we know the Talmud explains a beautiful story that as Rabbi Akiva was finishing the final funeral of the 24,000th student, he then picks up the next day and he searches low and high in Israel, because he was the leader of the generation. He had amassed the most amount of Torah knowledge and wisdom and guidance to be able to guide the next generation. He had no one to give it to. And he finally found 5 students, 5 primary disciples of Rabbi Akiva. And in fact, in our very Beit Midrash that we have just down those stairs, whenever a Herzlia pupil will learn something in the realm of the oral Torah, they're learning it from these 5 students, because it was survived and it was passed on to the next generation, from these 5 to the next 5 million. And that idea of resilience, no matter how tough it gets, this isn't working, this one's moaning, this one's complaining, this thing's not perfect, that's not perfect. Jewish education isn't always in symmetry and perfect. But the one thing we have always is that tomorrow we get up and it's another day, and we continue to do it through COVID, through challenges. We continue to do it because that's the goal. And when that's the goal, you'll always get out of bed. You'll always get out of bed to ensure there's a Jewish education and there's a Jewish tomorrow. And so that's a very powerful lesson we can take, I think, on Lag BaOmer, that tonight's a night of celebration, in fact, because the plague ended. But there's also a deeper message behind it, that as much as the going sometimes gets tough, and it has, you know, as King Solomon taught us, there's nothing new under the sun. We've been through many challenges before. But when we also have within our DNA the resilience to tomorrow morning and the next day and the next day to continue our tremendous and most important cause of Jewish education. Thank you very much. I just wanted to share also very quickly, I have a strict 5-minute limit from Mr. B, but just to share some snippets on the JLL offering as well, just in my capacity as the head of Jewish Life and Learning for the system as well. And that is that when grade 7s come into the system, they come from Weizmann and from Highlands, previously from Constantia as well, and therefore it's a settling down year. And it's a settling down year very much from a Jewish Life and Learning point of view as well. In grade 7, every single day, the pupils have compulsory tefillah, which they've carried with them from grade 6. They all do the same Jewish studies program, so that we can very much assess the levels. You know, when you walk into a maths class, it's very much just dependent on your abilities. But when you walk into a Jewish studies class or a Beit Midrash class, it's not just dependent on your academic abilities. There's a lot more that goes into it in terms of engagement, in terms of willingness, in terms of opportunity. So we kind of throw that all into the cholent, as we say. And then by the time the grade 7s get to the end of grade 7, then they start to make choices with regard to Jewish life and learning. And we feel that into those early adolescent years, and I'm sure a lot of the grade 6 parents are already feeling as adolescent years, it's getting younger and younger. But as pupils mature after the bar mitzvah year and they go into grade 8, then we feel it's a good opportunity, and pupils choose either a Beit Midrash track or regular Jewish studies track from the beginning of grade 8, as well as there's more opportunity in the realm of tefillah as well, in terms of different programs that are offered in terms of a more diverse offering of tefillah throughout their morning before the day starts. So if anyone has any further questions, please just drop me an email, rabbicannon@herzlia.com. I'm always happy and always available to help any of the parents with whatever you may need. Thank you so much and enjoy the rest of the evening.
Right, thank you, Rabbi. Your words are always wise and appreciated, and good luck with your JLL program and strategy for next year. What I'm going to do next is I'm going to call up our head of the Student Representative Council and Deputy, the head Judge Joachim and Amy Vogelman. They're going to MC the evening, and this is part of our leadership program, which actually starts in grade 7 as well. I'm sure Mr. Blumenthal will add to that. But for this evening, I'd like to introduce you to Judd and Amy. Can you come forward, please, guys?
Good evening, rabbis, teachers, and most importantly, you, the parents of the class of 2027. The year 2020 was an excellent year for Herzlia, not only being remembered as a year of resilience and change, but a year where we recorded our best ever academic results. 2020 showed our community and our competitors that our school is agile, dynamic, and adaptable. We were the first school to have mastered hybrid learning.
Having loved my primary school experience, it was a little daunting to button up my big school shirt, put on my navy blazer, and make the move to the big campus on the slopes of Table Mountain. Life at primary school was safe and protected. My mom and my teachers did everything for me, and all I had to do was show up and do my homework. Well, junior high school is very different. I am in control. I am in charge. Suddenly, I am responsible for myself. This may seem quite frightening to you when you think of your own children, but the astonishing fact is that we were all ready to take that next step of self-development and to never look back. At junior high school, we are encouraged to question and to challenge. A huge focus is placed on learning about our Jewish identity, and this forms the foundation of our moral compass that we will use in our adult lives. We are always reminded that we are part of something bigger, a thriving Jewish community that looks out for and supports each other. We are encouraged to push boundaries and to question the obvious. Both sport and culture also play an enormous part of our middle school lives. All pupils have to do one extramural, and there are so many on offer. Everything from mountain biking and surfing to debating and drama. On top of this, there is a strong focus on menschlichkeit and being a good human being, something we as kids often tend to forget.
Let me run through an average Thursday at Herzlia. I arrive at school at 8:10 where I'm COVID screened. The atrium is buzzing with excitement for the start of the school day. The bell goes off for the start of mental period. For all of you who are unaware what that is, it is a set time at the start of the school day where you go to your designated mental class with your mental group. In my case, my mentor is my friend Minna, and our mental lessons are filled with interesting discussions, debates, and time spent constructively socializing with my peers. After that, I'm taught by the most amazing and dedicated teachers who have my best interests at heart and see me as an individual person with my own unique needs and wants, helping out wherever possible, both academically and socially. At the end of the school day, I go to soccer, where we are coached by a teacher who is not only passionate about the sport, but also about the importance of impression and sportsmanship Herzlia team needs to offer on the field. For me, I've seen how by embracing the opportunities on offer, Herzlia Junior High has helped me evolve both as a student and a person.
As we enter our final year of junior high, and we take time to reflect on the past 2 and a bit years, what springs to mind is not challenging adolescent years filled with pressure and anxiety. What we have experienced here are happy times, some of the best years of our lives, where our voices were heard and our minds were extended.
We are actively engaged, confident, courageous, and resilient global citizens, driven by our core Jewish values. We stand here today to endorse your choice that you have given your child the greatest gift by choosing Herzlia. We're from Herzlia and we know who we are.
That's it.
Yeah.
We're now going to call up Mr. Van Rensen, the Executive Director of United Herzlia Schools.
Dear parents, grade 6 pupils, and everyone else present, it is my great pleasure to say a few words. It was roughly a year ago, and it was also a live meeting. And when Shane said to me earlier this evening he's a bit disappointed, I said to him, I'm so excited to see people. And thank you very much for coming to this evening. So thank you for the introductions, Shane, Rabbi, Judd, and Amy. And thank you everyone to make an effort to be here in person tonight. But to everyone attending online, I really hope you will also have a good experience. If there's one thing that we've learned this year, it is that hybrid teaching, where you've got a class full of children in front of you, as well as a camera and some people following online, is really very difficult and quite stressful situation for staff. And the experience at home is not exactly the same. So nothing can replace human contact, and it is great to see each other face to face. To our pupils, the move from primary school to high school is a very big one. At Herzlia, it happens a year earlier than most other schools. And as a teacher myself, who have taught grade 6s and 7s and high school pupils for a very long time, I understand the excitement, but also the trepidation about what's coming. This is a big move. Will I be okay? Will I cope with high school? Am I going to be bullied? Is my teachers going to be nice? And to all these questions, I can tell you with confidence, don't worry. Don't worry, you will be okay. You will cope with high school, and if you don't, there's lots of people that will really help you. The teachers at Herzlia are really very nice, and bullying is something we take very serious, so you have no reason to worry about that either. And you are coming to a school that you already know. Your friends will be here with you, and you are going to make a lot of new friends as well, and that's exciting. So since the beginning of this year, the old middle school and the high school became one school. The senior principal, Mr. Mark Falconer, who will speak to you shortly, has in his management team, Mr. Brawson, the head of the junior high, who is also the head of sport at Herzlia. And I am sure you grade 6s have seen him a lot at the pool, or at one of the family surf days, or at one of the other sports events. And I am so enormously encouraged by the enthusiastic participation and involvement that is happening at the moment by our pupils. I heard Amy say, you have to do one sport. Yeah, you have to do one sport, but don't do one sport. Do as much as you can, okay? Your high school years are only 6 years long, and you will never forget them. You will speak about them for many, many years to come. Many of our parents actually have met their wives and husbands in high school. And I want to encourage you to make the best of these years while you are young, energetic, curious and hungry to learn and grow. Participate in as much as you can. Study hard. You are aware, but I'm going to say it again, that Herzlia is the #1 top achieving school in the country for 2020. I would love you to also be in a matric group that is amongst the top 10 in the country when you reach matric. But don't only study hard, also play hard, make the team, join the squad, whether it be sport or an innovation club or a cultural activity. Those are the things that you are going to remember the most. And those are the things that are going to give you the most joy. Parents and pupils, we are committed to make the school an enjoyable experience for everybody that's involved. So we therefore welcome your feedback and input on how we can make things better. So at the end of this evening, all parents, whether you are here or whether you're online, will receive a short survey sent to you from our new professional Herzlia survey platform. Please will you complete it and assist us in our quest for improvement. Following this one, there will be more coming to pupils, parents, and to our staff. I wish you a very pleasant grade 7 2022 evening. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Van Rensen. Can we please call up Mr. Brawson, the principal of the junior high school?
Thanks, Judd. I think it would be remiss of me not to comment on the fantastic speech of Amy and Judd. I think it's your first appearance in public. And I'm always so proud to stand here of these principal of these young kids and just see they just blossom. They've got confidence. They're articulate. And you guys and your families can be extremely proud of you, as am I in the school. To Mr. Van Rensen, Andres, thank you for your words. Thank you for your support on a personal level and for the concept of the junior high and the integration of the senior high. It's much appreciated. Yesterday, myself and Mr. Van Rensen had a sports meeting, and he said, I'm not going to tell you what I'm saying, Shane, because if we say the same thing, you're going to have to think on your feet. And that's almost exactly what's happened. So I'll wing it a bit. Thanks, Andres. I'll try not to be too repetitive. In 2020, the decision was made to amalgamate the then middle school into the junior high and senior high school. Mr. Faulkner appointed senior principal, myself principal of the junior high. But I think more importantly was that we each took up a specific portfolio. I took up sport, and Mr. Faulkner oversees the academics, and I think it's just a system that we just dovetail so beautifully together, where we both are working to our strengths. And I think that's to the benefit of pupils from grade 7 through to matric. I won't speak for Mark, but I'll speak for myself. I feel very much like I've gone back to my roots and doing what I love. And when I was part of the surf day 2-3 weeks back, Amanda Varkel had her kids there, and as I was cheering them on, she said to me, Shane, I can see you doing what you love. And it really resonated with me, because that is actually what I love. And I love what I'm doing, so I'm blessed. I feel that integration has been incredibly successful across the pillars: sport, culture, Jewish life and learning, academics, and menschlichkeit. I think we not only have myself and Mr. Faulkner working to our strengths, but we have teachers working to their strengths. And it's not restricted to a phase. It's across the whole system. And we do have some really incredible teachers within the high school. It's also important that you know that the leadership team of myself, Mr. Faulkner, Judy Kohler, and Sidney Samakowski, the 2 deputies, meet regularly. We plot, we plan, and we have a fantastic relationship. I often get asked, how's it going? I just got asked earlier this evening. It's going unbelievably well, in my opinion. I'm incredibly lucky to work with people of the caliber that I do, and receive the support from management that we do, and that includes the board as well. Going back to sport. Sorry, why am I telling you this? Because it's something you probably know, and it's because your kids are coming in 2022, and they're going to get the benefit of our first year as a high school. And we're continually striving to improve across all 5 pillars, and I strongly believe that when your kids come into the school next year, it's going to be an even stronger institution than it already is. When it comes to the sport, I'm not going to go into specifics tonight. At the beginning of next year, we have another parent evening where I run through programs and security and protocols. My comments tonight are, we've gone through COVID. Those that were at the family surf day would have heard me say, for the children and for us, there's a little bit of light at the end of the tunnel. And we have a massive interest in extramurals at the moment. It's not just sport, it's STEAM, culture, sport. One of my KPIs, and that's a new word for me, but one of my KPIs was to increase the participation in sport and extramurals. And I haven't really had to do anything. We're standing at 95% at the moment. Kids, parents, teachers, they're hungry to get out there. What does this mean for the future? I think going forward, we need to look at working together as a school, as a community, as pupils. We need not a family surf day only. I've been speaking to Mr. Cohn and Mr. Van Rensen. I want to look at running similar days with soccer, netball, mountain biking, across the board, cultural activities where we get parents involved, where we build the spirit of community, the spirit of Judaism. We've got some cycling boys wanting to go with their parents, cycling in the morning, have a tefillah in the outdoors. Mr. Cohen said he's going to go, and I think that's really beautiful. So I think we're making incredible progress. I'm not going to speak for long, but I want you to know the following. That apart from it's exciting to see you tonight, I'm incredibly looking forward to welcoming your children to the junior high school and the high school at large. I'm sure you know, but it's a very warm, caring, and nurturing environment. And your children will be well looked after. I often hear from parents whose kids have left the school. They'll always say to me that one thing about Herzlia that I can never take away from you is the nurturing, caring, and loving environment and how available you are. And it's always stuck with me because our door is open and we are a caring school. So to finish off with, Jeff always gives me the nod when I say this. The most important thing is that we're a Jewish day school. It's central to who we are. We practice all the chags. And I strongly believe that we're a world-class Jewish day school. Not only academics, but across the board. We're going to be a proudly Zionist Jewish day school, and I look forward to welcoming your children in 2022. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Brawson. We're now going to call up Mr. Falconer, the Senior High Principal.
Thanks, Amy. Thanks, Shane, my mate. So when we were planning who was going to say what, Shane just said, well, wait until everyone's spoken and then just say what hasn't been said. So thanks for that, very much. But I do want to thank, and I mean this most sincerely, I want to thank management, as Shane has said, but I want to thank Shane for his real deep investment and knowledge of the junior grades 7, 8, and 9. I've never had anything much to do with grade 7s, and for my sins, which are obviously considerable, I'm teaching a grade 7 class, and I'm not qualified. I can manage matrics easily enough, but grade 7s is a different kettle of fish. Thank you for investing this time and this energy. Winter is coming. A little while ago we were sweltering, and now it's not so pleasant being out. And as has been said a number of times, this is the first live, although we are online as well, but this is the first live event we've had since March last year. So it's very exciting. So please excuse us if we get a bit weird. But we come back to a very different world. We come back to a very different school because the educational environment has changed and it will never be what it was before. That's in the world and definitely in South Africa. Of course, we are always rethinking education. We are always thinking how we do what we do, why we do it, and what we want the outcome to be. We relish our independence as an independent school. It means that we can do things, we can be experimental, we can think in ways that we wouldn't be able to do if we were stuck to a particular recipe. And we do, we really do. We try our hardest to find ways to engage. Marks, we know, don't tell the whole story. In fact, they don't tell us very much of the story. So while it is true that we can trumpet that judging by certain criteria, we are the top performing school in the country. It's also the case that there were 18 pupils who were with specific educational needs, who had exam concessions, that we had no entrance exams, and those pupils added to an aggregate of 80%. And that's not the story. It's not about the 80%. It's about their willingness to engage with a completely different curriculum in very, very difficult circumstances. And that says not just something about them, it says something about their parents, it says something about the school and our teachers and our environment. So the footer that we've got, best school in the country, is, I think, not to do so much with the marks, but what that means. What we want to do. Shane, don't be nervous. I'm going to stop. I promise you I'm not going over 5 minutes. What we want to inculcate, what we want our pupils to leave with are the habits of mind. So the marks will come, but we want them to be questioning. We want them to be curious. We want them to be critical thinkers. We want them to explore, to find personal relationships with their learning. We want them to relish their learning. Also, to be said, and it's important, that learning is sometimes uncomfortable. It's sometimes difficult. Learning, if Piaget would excuse me, learning is what we do when we don't know what to do. Learning is understanding the correct response, whether it's a maths problem or it's an inappropriate WhatsApp message. How do we respond to that? How have we learnt how to deal with these different challenges? And since I am an English teacher, and since I am teaching a grade 7 class, what I am going to say to you as parents who have the potential now to inculcate the most important academic and social habit, and that is reading. I can guarantee you, in fact, you can get your money back in 2027 when your kids matriculate. If you get your kids to read, even if it's just 15 minutes a day, I guarantee 10% extra. Guaranteed. I don't know how you're going to prove that. But I can tell you that it's not just an academic advantage. It's psychological maturity, it's empathy, it's improved comprehension, cognition, articulation, fluency, reasoning, and deep learning. There is nothing that you can do that is going to be of more benefit to your children than to help them to develop a habit for reading. And it doesn't necessarily have to be reading a hard copy. Audiobooks work just as well, but it does develop all of the areas that I've spoken about. And the sad truth is that our kids do not read. So if there's one thing that I can say that can stick, please emphasize reading. At Herzlia, which has already been mentioned, I'm on my third last point. I'm very scared of him, he's much bigger than me. Herzlia prides itself on individual education, on holistic education. So we've spoken so much about Jewish identity and Jewish points of connection, of cultural, of sporting, of academic, of leadership. And we've got two beautiful examples of powerful, articulate, intelligent, confident young people. I mean, I know that I would never, ever, in a million years, have been able to stand up at grade 9 and be as assured as Amy and Judd. Herzlia's holistic education, I know that the phrase holistic education is an overused one, but it is a true one. Our counseling department is honestly world-class, and our educational support, which is not just for specific educational needs, but for every single child. The metacognitive components that we've built, I know Amanda's not talking, but we have designed a program that develops all sorts of skills and habits that pupils will carry through for the rest of their lives, not just the rest of their school. The best learning is also sometimes experiential learning. That doesn't happen in the classroom. Social responsibilities and committees and leaderships and sports and culture. Many of these aspects you're going to experience tonight. The esteem, the drama, the music, and of course, our beautiful counselors. Thank you, Judd and Amy. And also, I want to take this opportunity to thank our SALT team, Tim and Adam. I really wish the next 7 years the most fulfilling, most satisfying, most expanding years of you and your children's educational career. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Faulkner. Calling on Mr. Blumenthal, the head of grade 7.
Good evening to our Executive Director, Director of Education, principals of the senior and junior high school, Rabbi, and grade 6 parents. Welcome. My name is Benji Blumenthal, and I'm the grade 7 head of Herzlia Junior High School. What a privilege it is for me to address our very first in-person gathering in over a year. One of the highlights of my career so far was returning to the school after hard lockdown to the sound of kids filling this space, which for so long had sat empty and depressing. At the start of every year, I always share with my new cohort of grade 7s a personal anecdote. It was 27 years ago that I arrived at the middle school, a terrified pupil from Herzlia, Constantia, halfway across South Africa in a faraway place they call the southern suburbs. Our year group were the guinea pigs undergoing a social experiment which would stand the test of time. You see, I was the very first grade 7 year to enter the middle school. Up until then, it only accommodated grade 8 and 9. Of course, it wasn't called grade 7 then. We were in standard 5, and we came here with the standard 6s. I recall like it was yesterday the exact spot in the hall where I sat nervously listening to names being called out, which would comprise my new class. The spot was right there where Mr. Faulkner is sitting, and I was facing in that direction. I was in Mr. Faulkner's class, not the same Mr. Faulkner. His name was Teddy Faulkner, that eccentric little man with his beautiful British sense of humor. I loved him, and I loved my time in his class, despite not being placed with a single other pupil from Constantia. I also remember the warmth and humor of my then principal, Mr. Jeff Cohen, now our Director of Education. I also remember looking up fondly, intimidatingly, to my big, burly, sporty geography teacher, Mr. Brawson, who's now my boss. So much has changed, and yet so much has remained the same. What has changed is that nowadays we make sure to place your child with at least one friend to make the transition into grade 7 just a little bit easier. What hasn't changed much is that each year we receive around 125 timid and uncertain grade 7s whose parents are sitting on spielkes because how is my bubala ever going to cope with a massive workload, and did you know they have to pack their own bags for every lesson? At the start of every year, pupils would have heard the horror stories of having to manage their own lockers, packing and unpacking books at break time, navigating on their own to find their classes. As opposed to teachers coming to them in primary school, they would have heard of new grade 7s getting lost in this sprawling building, never to be seen again, and tales of sadistic teachers dishing out detentions for sport. However, the moment they arrive, they discover the cold, hard truth about the junior high, just like I did 27 years ago. The truth is that the junior high school, its principal, its teachers, its mentors and grade heads are loving, caring, and nurturing people who go out of their way to make them feel at home and welcome. Most of us are parents ourselves who see our children in the eyes of our pupils. We understand the needs of our grade 7s, be it pastoral, social, or academic. The fear and angst that is built up for so long prior to their arrival here evaporates like ether, and it opens up a whole new world of opportunity to them. In grade 7, our emphasis is on developing independence and resilience in your children, while ensuring a safety net is well in place to catch them when they fall. Because, after all, falling is a necessary part of growing and learning, and really understanding what you are capable of. There is no getting up without falling first. Our mentor program pairs a mentor up with his or her mentor group for the entire year in order to manage the social, emotional, and academic needs of their mentees. This is what sets the Herzlia Junior High School apart from other schools. The staff genuinely care about the holistic, sorry to overuse that word, Mr. Faulkner, development of each and every child. Within a few months, you may not recognize your child, because in the short space of time, and in stark contrast to those first few days of terror and confusion and uncertainty, you will see a strong, independent young man or woman who is able to organize and manage themselves through a busy day. A pupil that can work both independently and collaborate in groups, stand up and confidently address a class or parent body, think critically about the world around them, a tech-savvy youngster who researches, compiles, and submits their work through Google Classroom, and a young adult who has the freedom to explore their own creativity, whether it be in the art room, whether it be on the bimmer, whether it be in a world-class sound studio, which you will see later on, from a stage, on a sports field, or in front of a computer. These are the 21st century skills which underpin everything that we do here, and which will equip your children with the skills necessary for a new world in the future about which we know so little. But don't take my word for it. Let's hear from our two grade 7 representatives, Ruby Chaskelson and Zach Power.
Hello, my name is Ruby Chaskelson. I'm one of the grade 7 representatives with Zach Powers. The first thing that you will notice at the junior high school is the structure of the school day, which I think is outstanding. We begin most days with our mentor. Your mentor gives you the information for the day, and they are a person who you can discuss any issues which you may have. The school day is divided into 5 lessons, each of 50 minutes, and there's a break of 10 minutes between lessons to get you from class to class. Each lesson, you're in a different class, so moving around the school is something you'll need to get used to. Don't worry, you'll get used to the classes, and if you get lost, don't worry, an older kid can always help you. There are 2 main breaks in the day. The first one is 20 minutes, and the second is 30 minutes. Break is a great time to hang out with your friends or go to one of the 2 tuck shops. One is Jill's tuck shop, which is in the junior high, and the other is the senior high tuck shop. You will learn which one you like best next year. Next year, you will get your own locker. This is the place where you leave your stuff, so your bag doesn't have to be so full. Between lessons or at a break, you can always swap your subject folders so that you always have what you need. I found that the integration into the junior high school was done well. The work is not that much harder than last year. You just need to be prepared and try. The teachers are very encouraging, and I found that I'm actually doing better this year than I was last year. School is not only about learning. There are also many sports or social activities that you can try. If you were at Highlands or Weizmann, or even if you weren't at Herzlia, now we are all at the junior high school. Don't be worried about friends, because many of your old friends will still be your friends. But it is also a great opportunity to meet new people and make new friends. I have found my new school to be a friendly, fun and welcoming place, and I hope you do too. Next year, it will be a time for you to experiment, grow, and most importantly, have fun. I hope you enjoy it as much as I did. Thank you.
So far, middle school has actually been great for me. I've met a lot of new interesting people, and I really like my teachers. By the way, my name is Zach Power. I'm one of the student representatives among with Ruby Chaskelson. I was tasked to make a video for the parents to basically explain my experience with middle school. And I think you picked up it's been good. I mean, I really enjoyed the campus. It's a lot better than primary school campus. Not hating on primary school campus, but it's a lot bigger. The tuck shop, it's a lot better. It's got like sweets and everything. I don't know if the parents would be happy with that, but trust me, it's a lot more unhealthy. It's a lot better. Probably way more self. In grade 6, when I thought of a middle school teacher, I thought that teacher would be tough, strict, and not understanding. But I've learned that the grade 7 junior high teachers are actually very nice, and they're still caring, and they'll still help you, and it's still great. And all of this has been really great, and that's my experience so far. It hasn't felt like a long time at all, because it hasn't really been, but it's felt quicker than it was. Thank you for watching. Goodbye, and your kid will be fine in the junior high. It's all fine.
That kid should have his own YouTube channel. I would be his first follower. But what strikes me, no matter how many times I watch those two videos, what strikes me is just the incredible confidence of those kids are 13 years old. They're amazing. I could never have done that at 13 years old. So they're just very impressive. Moving on. Our award-winning Learning Support Department, headed up by our amazing Amanda Varkel, an expert in her field. She asked me not to say that, but I just had to put it in there because it's true. Helps each pupil achieve their potential by offering academic support, study skills, time management, planning, social and emotional support. They also offer an extension program for pupils who are looking for opportunities beyond the curriculum. The grade 7 year is a full one. Just some of the events in the year include Klita Camp, the highlight for most, where the new grade 7s integrate with those from other schools. They shed their primary school identities and bond as a year group. Marine Day, where pupils can go snorkeling and explore the rocky shore. I was actually wondering whether to add this little anecdote in, but one of my fondest memories from middle school was actually going on a Marine Day with my big, burly, slightly intimidating geography teacher, was Mr. Brawson, and this was 27 years ago. And I remember myself and Mark Oshkansky going with Mr. Brawson snorkeling, and he took us a lot further than the others because he could see we were a little more competent. And I'll never forget, that was the start of my love affair with diving in the ocean. And here I'm working side by side with you 27 years later. So I think this is what we see. Herzlia is as much about a family and continuity as it is about education. A visit to the aquarium, the raucous fun and competition of Athletics Day, the rivalry and ruach of our combined galas, the mind-bending, number-crunching thrill of Pi Day, the absurdity of Purim, the legendary Pesach Seders, Friendship Day, grandparents' tea, showcase, guest speakers, outings around Cape Town. A lot is crammed into this grade 7 year. The junior high school can now boast a state-of-the-art innovation center, a makerspace and a green room managed by the passionate team of Minia Foster, Tanya Stein, and Moreh Kadar, and offering such modern specialities as drone flying, coding, robotics, and Minecraft. Let's find out about this wonderful new addition to the Herzlia Junior High.
Dear pupils, parents, and staff, I'm Michael Foster and I'm Head of Innovation at Herzlia Schools. For the past 8 years in teaching, I've been actively involved with education and technology and helping and supporting teachers, as well as presenting at various summits. It's my pleasure to be able to introduce the Innovation Center at Herzlia since the start of January 2020. We have now expanded into 2 more rooms, from the eSteam lab into a makerspace, as well as a brand new robotics lab and green screen studio. In these spaces, we've already started with lots of creative, interactive and engaging projects that I'll tell you a bit more about very soon. My personal journey in education technology started about 11 years ago when I was still a practice teaching student. I will never forget that day I stepped into a classroom where I was busy planning a smartboard lesson, and the kind of engagement that I got from the learners there was absolutely amazing. And that then set me on the path to where I am today. The opportunities that are available today are almost inconceivable in comparison to what it was only a few years ago. Creativity, innovation, and passion are all noticed and rewarded. All of this has been accelerated by the COVID pandemic that we find ourselves in today. Employers and industry leaders are seeking curious, lateral thinkers who are capable of conceiving cutting-edge ideas and who possesses the skills to promote their organizations. They're also looking for independent and collaborative innovation strategies and skills. Traditional education systems do not promote the natural exuberance, energy and curiosity that learners so desperately seek. Learners become disengaged and educators become apathetic. And so we ask these vital questions. Are we doing all we can to foster and evaluate skills pertinently? Are we effectively preparing our young leaders of tomorrow for the careers in the real world? Are the youth our most precious resource being given the environment and the freedom to explore their strengths, their interests, and develop innovation and problem-solving skills to address the challenges that we face today and will be facing tomorrow. Now more than ever, education needs to be shifted in order to meet the 21st century demands placed on our pupils that are going to leave school shortly. In order for us to be able to do this, we need to focus on enhancing and upskilling pupils with curiosity, sociability, playfulness, and attentiveness. The 12th of March 2020 will forever be remembered as the day that Herzlia had to close, and within 24 hours we had to go from in-school teaching to online teaching. This was actually a process that was made possible by 3 years of working with the EdTech Forum of representative teachers as well as representative board members to ensure that our school does have the necessary infrastructure as well as the necessary staff training and upskilling to be able to make this sudden shift. With that, I'm very excited to share our Herzlia innovation strategy with you. We are faced with a rapidly changing world, and the COVID pandemic has accelerated the shift from the analog world into a digital one. In order to prepare our pupils for this rapidly changing world, we are focusing on 21st century skills that includes communication, collaboration, critical thinking, and creativity. Therefore, our innovation strategy vision is as follows: to afford Herzlia pupils the opportunity to develop vital 21st century skills in a high-tech, stimulating environment that will help to prepare them for a rapidly changing world. Our integrated transformative approach revolves around helping our pupils to gain to vital 21st century skills that are necessary to adapt to this changing environment. Therefore, we need to make sure that they are able to become active global citizens. This begs the question whether everything at Herzlia will be digitized, and the simple answer is no, most definitely not. We believe in a balanced approach where our pupils are still exposed to practical apparatus and tools and equipment. Our innovation strategy consists out of 4 arms. The first arm refers to our project-based learning approach. This in turn informs our teachers' pedagogy as well as their teaching practice. As mentioned in the innovation strategy, we do look at the integrated curriculum, at driving questions that lead the inquiry, at problem-based learning and skills, as well as collaboration during the integrated projects. Our second arm refers to education technology. This includes our highly qualified and skilled IT team that provide tech support to all the pupils and the teachers, a high-tech infrastructure that refers to our 10 gigabyte fiber line, amongst other things, as well as our smart devices that we use inside the classroom, for example our Chromebooks. And finally, our smart boards that provide interactive online content for our pupils. Our third arm refers to the Innovation Center that was opened in January 2020. This includes an entrepreneurship think tank for ideation and collaboration and planning of projects. It also includes the eSTEAM Lab, where our computer and digital literacy projects are based. It includes a makerspace that allows for creative and critical thinking, creative building and design. Then of course we've got our robotics lab that also hosts our green screen studio. And finally, our eSTEAM curriculum offering, as well as the extracurricular activities, will ensure that pupils are equipped with vital 21st century skills. And finally, our Tekunulam arm that refers to community outreach and getting the community involved in our Innovation Center. We will do this by empowering the unemployed youth, by presenting evening classes, helping them to upskill. We also have social impact and mentorship programs with our own pupils as well as pupils from the Jewish and wider community. We also firmly believe that our pupils need to become active global citizens that leave a lasting social impact. And finally, we'd like to get more of the community and the parents involved in our Innovation Center initiatives. Below, you will find our key areas that we focus on, and this is guided by the questions that will follow. So in conclusion, I'd like to share with you our 4 guiding questions that will guide our transformative approach. Who do we need to keep in mind when we transform our educational approach? What will we use to help our teachers and pupils achieve their learning goals? How will Herzlia help its teachers to enhance their teaching and learning practices? How will Herzlia help its pupils to grow and explore while developing vital 21st century skills? It was Socrates who once said, "The secret to change is to focus all of your energy, not fighting the old, but building on the new."
Shortly, you will have an opportunity to go and visit the Esteem Room and Makerspace and Green Room and ask Minia Foster any questions that you may have. I'd like to end off by thanking our professional sound and lighting team under the guidance of Luke Fletcher and our two up-and-coming students, our SALT members. Thank you for making this night possible and for your professionalism as always. And thank you to our new marketing director, Sandy Scher. And I'd also like to thank Tanya Stein for the slideshow and for the photography tonight. And finally, I would like to thank you, 2022 grade 7 parents, for making the Herzlia Junior High School your school of choice. And thank you for entrusting us with your precious children. I cannot wait to meet them next year. They have everything to look forward to. So this is the part of the evening where we say goodnight to those parents who have been watching online. I want to thank you so much for attending. I want to wish you a Lag BaOmer Sameach and a Laila Tov. And this is where we'll begin our physical tour side. We have divided you into smaller groups according to the color of stickers that you were given by our student council. Each color designates a certain group, and you'll be led by two of our student counselors to 5 different venues. You won't spend long there, approximately 5 minutes at each venue, where you'll be given a short presentation. Please, I encourage you to ask questions, and everyone will finish off at our magnificent multi-purpose hall where tea will be served. Before you go, I'd just like to thank you very, very much for attending tonight. And if there are any further questions that come up between now and the end of this year, please don't hesitate to email. I'm bblumenthal@herzlia.com, or please phone. So, without further ado, the red stickers. You will be going with Amy and Judd. Amy and Judd, can you please put up your hand? Everyone with red stickers, please follow them. Okay, everyone with blue stickers. You will go with Mariana and Matt. Mariana and Matt, there they are. Please keep your hands up so we can see who you are. So blue stickers with Mariana and Matt. Yellow stickers. Yellow stickers with Ella and Katie. Ella and Katie, there they are. Ella and Katie. Green stickers. Green stickers, you will go with Ethan and Adam. Can you guys maybe move to the side so we can see where you are? Okay. Ethan and Adam are closest to the lockers. They've got their hands up there. That's green stickers. And finally, pink stickers. Pink stickers will go with Sarah, Idana, and Mia. Sarah, Idana, and Mia, put your hands up. There they are. Any pink stickers? Okay. Enjoy the tour.